Namaste, Soul Circle. I'm Candice.
And I'm Steven.
And we're from Arcana, Mind, Body, and Spirit, here in Toronto, Canada.
And today we are discussing how to celebrate Imbolc, one of the most underrated celebrations in the Wheel of the Year.
Imbolc is a fire festival that marks the turn towards the light, celebrated in the Northern Hemisphere on February 1st and on August 1st in the Southern Hemisphere.
Together, we will learn what it means to be in the belly, which is ultimately going to help you manifest your greatest soul's desires.
Let's do it! Imbolc marks the turn of the wheel into the third season of the year. This is the season of the spark, the season of the quickening. Many practices call this the season of initiation.
Now, before Imbolc, we are in the second season, what we call the season of rest. It's in this time we are caretaking ourselves, listening to our inner voices inside us, and not acting, just letting them whisper into our hearts. It's important to give your body temple time to reflect within.
It's here we make space for our wildest desires, while in rested state to see what our highest selves are dying to create through us.
So Candice,
oh, here we go.
What truths came through for you during the season of rest?
So for me, during the season of rest, which felt like a really long season of rest.
Like a whole year.
Like quarantine and different things that were happening in the world. I would say the biggest message that came through for me was taking time for gratitude. Taking time to actually stop and see and feel and acknowledge all the things that I actually have. It was really easy in the beginning of, all of the things that were happening with COVID and quarantine, and to notice all the losses. Mm-hmm. And when I was stuck in this silence, when I was stuck in my space and in these very limited small bubbles, I had a lot of time to think. But I also had a lot of time to truly look around, and instead of just wallowing and feeling sad, I took the time to look around and see everything that I have. To look at my daughter and look at our relationship, to notice the things that maybe I needed to fix in our relationship, fix within myself, to have a better relationship, to renew my parenting skills. I had just come off of 4 years of being super, super busy finishing school, and maybe there were certain things that I was neglecting to really focus on. And in this time of rest, I was just in it. I was just sitting there. I was noticing. I was feeling grateful. And I was also feeling grateful for having the time to notice that stuff. That might have just, if I had just picked up and started working and done the things, I might not have noticed those small things. Being grateful that I did finish school. Being grateful that I have people. And that I have people in my support circle that mean a lot to me. The time that we had starting Arcana, like putting our practices and our information out there for everyone. There was a lot of things to be grateful for in a place that was really hard. And I'm not saying gratitude is me like with the bluebird on my finger in the sunlight, like now. But I mean, like realistically, I could have been crying in my pillow and then taken a couple deep breaths and been like, wow, I've actually learned something in this moment. And I think that is what I now am grateful for and then learned in this time of rest that just finished or is soon to be finished. All right. So Steve, what about you?
The season of rest this year was unlike any season before because we spent a year in rest.
Right?
Like double air sign here. Like stagnation for me is hard. And I think prior to this year, stagnation for me was kind of an unrealistic. Like, I'd be like, I've been at home for 2 weeks without getting on an airplane. I'm stagnant. Yeah. Like, it was kind of an unrealistic benchmark that I was comparing myself to.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of the year in a very happy gratitude state of learning about, I know in previous videos we've talked about how I grew things. I learned to cook. I spent a lot of time with my husband and with you and your child. And it was super awesome and beautiful. But in the season of rest this year, if I'm being honest with myself, stagnation does really hurt my soul. In moments of where it feels like there's no forward momentum, I really feel that I'm halted and stilted. And what I loved about this year is that I redefined what stagnation means, or like I could just be growing. It doesn't mean I have to be across the world on some grand adventure. Forward momentum can look like a lot of different things. And there's a lot of whispers over this season because the season of rest takes place around our holidays and Christmas, and there's a lot of gratitude on the beautiful things that I appreciate in life. So for me, it was kind of resetting that standard, but I think it's important for me to also hear that it's not about like, oh, you can be happy in one place. No, my soul does need movement. And I think that is an important thing to realize and recognize, instead of being like, oh, I've learned, I've grown, I don't need to move, I can be happy in one spot. No, I need to bloom, I need to grow, I need blossoming in my life. And as I set intentions for this year, that's a message that's going to be important for me, I think.
So beginning the evening of February 1st, the season changes marked by Imbolc, halfway between the Winter Solstice and the Spring Equinox. On Imbolc, we celebrate the Celtic goddess Bridget.
Oh, Bridget.
She's the goddess of fertility, poetry, and healing. She's often depicted as a pregnant woman with her hands on her belly, honoring the life that she has created. So during this high holiday, we discover what is in our bellies. We ask ourselves, what are we birthing this year?
What are we birthing this year? We'll come to that later. Now, in the Celtic pantheon, Bridget was revered as the High One of Strength, and she's said to bring 9 blessings, and often each of these blessings would be met with an offering during your Imbolc ceremony. Her blessings are poetry,
Reflection,
meditation,
lore,
research,
knowledge,
intelligence,
comprehension,
and the last one is wisdom.
Many images of Bridget associate her with the image of a well and its dark waters of nourishment. This fits perfectly with the sun being an astrological sign Aquarius, the water bearer.
I love divine correspondences when everything sort of just comes together and it fits. It kind of feels like we're all talking about the same energy streams, just calling it by different names.
Yeah.
Now, traditionally, rather than deciding what is in our belly, we use our practice on Imbolc and we meditate to help us unearth these things organically. As a circle, we try not to name our own desires, but rather create a receptive space for our intentions to be conveyed through us during ceremony.
Our goal is to not be defined by our overstimulated minds and ideals of society that are often persuading us to make the decisions we make. Instead, we purify our body temple and create a space for our messages to be received. Because they offer us the messages, most traditions actually call this the naming ceremony.
By the end of our practice on Imbolc, we should have clarity of purpose for the next coming weeks on how to proceed with our manifestations. So, Candice, darling, what are some examples of your own experience that you have birthed during Imbolc?
So for me, when I think about that, I feel like
Tell me.
I feel like there was, in this time, and during this last time we did Imbolc together, I was going through something where there was an energy in the form of a person who was a really heavy point of distress for me. There's a lot of just a lot of stress, a lot of fear, a lot of just unknowing, and always like looking over my shoulder. And I was really putting a lot of unsettled feelings in my body and how I moved throughout the world, no matter what I was doing. So I knew that, again, I wasn't trying to name it. I didn't know what I needed to do. Was it forgiveness that I needed? Was it something within me? But I just knew that I wanted to release that. I wanted to be done with the fear of literally looking over my shoulder, scared and like nervous and on edge all the time because of this one specific thing. I didn't know how I was going to get rid of it, but I just knew that it was time to let that go. It was no longer something that I wanted. It was not serving me. There was nothing positive coming from this fear. So I needed to face it, release it, accept it, whatever. And that's what I was working on. And it wasn't until I was in the season of rest that I actually really took in that was no longer part of my life. Physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, this thing was gone. It is no longer, and it continues to be so. And I think that was a really big thing for me. And it was gone in a lot of ways. And I no longer have this thing that I think about or have to think about every single day. It's gone. And I'm so grateful.
So grateful. I too.
Grateful. Yes.
I'm grateful.
We are all grateful. There's a whole group of us who are grateful, okay? But yeah, I'm very grateful for that for me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more context to this, but I think that's super important.
It was a turning point towards the growth and release of a lot of that, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Stephen, what about you?
I think one of the greatest examples of listening and the whispers that happened last year was actually Arcana and like the birthing of what this is. If you asked me at the beginning of last year if we would be sitting on an online platform like this speaking, I'm not sure I would have ever believed that. It was not an intention that we set about. But during that period of time, we were doing so much healing and self-reflection, and this just so organically took place this year. And I guess those sweet whisperings started during our Imbolc ceremony last year. So I'd say that's a pretty big accomplishment.
I would say so too. And hopefully you would also agree.
And another thing that I'm looking forward to right now with this Imbolc in particular is that 2021 is actually a year of a 5, and I'm a Lifepath 5. Any other Lifepath 5s out there? Because I feel like the messages that may come through in ceremony are going to be pretty substantial and powerful.
Look at you, Fab. Okay. So, using the knowledge we gain on Imbolc, we are preparing to birth our creations and starting to give form to all the ideas that have sparked inspiration within us.
Fun fact, in some traditions, people would not practice at all between Yule and Imbolc, believing that Imbolc is the first light after the winter. And on that day, they would relight their ceremonial candle as a return to their practice. It's kind of beautiful. It really does set aside that season of rest.
Now, no matter what pantheon of spirituality you subscribe to, Imbolc is the celebration of new beginnings, new ideas, self-awakening, bringing warmth and life into what once was asleep.
Our goal is to help you use the wheel of the year in cadence with the natural cycles of the universe to become more effective in healing, releasing, and manifesting. Imbolc marks that first spark of creation. Also, astrologically, if you are a Leo or a Gemini, this is a great Sabbath for you because Leo is just over the horizon this time of year, and Gemini is prevalent in the southeast skies. Now, that makes me a lucky person.
So you got your 5, you got your Gemini.
And I got my Leo moon.
Bring it.
So this is a pretty wild time.
In ceremony, we also define our elemental gifts. Who are you today? Are you drawn more to the fire energies of transformation or the water energies of healing? We use Imbolc to define the directions we are most aligned with, allowing us insight into what motivates us. What you might find is that after emerging from the season of rest, you may feel aligned with a different elemental energy.
Now, keep in mind that just because you're a water sign doesn't mean that you only work with water energy.
Yeah.
I feel as though Hollywood movies have defined that you are only the one element that you are born into.
Yeah.
And the truth is there's just so much more to it than that. If you look at your natal chart, for example, you have far more aspects that align you to different elements, and maybe those elements differ from what your sun sign's energy stream is.
Yeah, like my rising and my moon are water, which is very surprising.
You're a fire sign.
Anyways, the universe is about balance, and by balancing your elements, you can have a clearer understanding of your current individual needs. So, Stephen, Which directional gateway are you aligning with this season?
I think that's pretty easy for me. So I am looking for new beginnings. Mm-hmm. So even though I am an air sign, I'm still going to align with air for sure. But I really want to call in the West this year, funny enough. I know I always give West a hard time. But I'm going to call in the West, all joking aside, because it's where prosperity lives, it's where healing lives, it's where flow lives. And I feel like those are things that I want to really work with this year, like being in flow state and abundance and in tandem with new beginnings. I feel like that's the type of energy I'm calling in. What about you?
I think I'm focusing on air. I want movement and I want just to bring things to life. Like I feel like I have that fire. I did a lot of healing last year and now I just want to get moving. I want to just bring some life to everything. And so yeah, I think that's what I'm going to focus on.
I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm being called to, especially coming out of so much rest.
Yeah.
I feel like last year was like water and even some earth and like everything was like heavy and slow and it was still. And now I'm ready to just like have some momentum.
Just go.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's talk about how we celebrate. Now, I love Imbolc. It's one of my favorite high ceremonies, and I feel like most people don't celebrate it because they don't know what to do. They just go to sleep and nap. So
we're all tired of sleeping and napping.
Right? It is the season of rest, but depending on your level of practice, you may be a solitary practitioner or you might be an out and proud earth child. There are a lot of different ways that you can celebrate.
So for one, you could take a nature walk to earth yourself. Try to look for naturally harvest items to decorate your space with. Trees that traditionally honor Imbolc are birch, evergreen, and willow. Mm-hmm. Flowers are lavender, rosemary, jasmine, basil, and bay. Oh, and chamomile. Mm-hmm. Stones to use are amethyst, garnet, bloodstone, onyx, and ruby. Ultimately, we are trying to create a space that will lovingly welcome all the messages the universe and Mother Gaia have for us.
All right, number 2 is colors. This is a huge, diverse topic. Some traditions celebrate by wearing colors of new beginnings, like the whites, the yellows, the greens, while some traditions wear colors that have to do more with like the darkness and the earth and the wombing energies. And then other traditions also wear red for Bridget's flame. So color correspondences are going to be something you'll have to look at and what rings true for you.
Number 3 is creating a Bridget's cross. So this is a Celtic tradition that when hung on doorways and windows is said to protect the home from any harm and negativity. There are a lot of instructional videos on this, Pinterest, YouTube, Google it. It's a really fun way to incorporate your kids or any kids you may know in an Imbolc tradition.
Now, number 4 is a tradition that we do. You can incorporate snow if you can. What we like to do is we place a water dish in our west and we allow the snow to melt during our practice to symbolize the warming of the earth.
That's cool. And the 5th one is find a reading to share based on the season. So because Stephen and I are trained writers, we try to write a mantra or poetry dedicated to Imbolc, which we plan on sharing with you. So make sure you come back to check it out.
Yeah, check it out. We'd love to have you incorporate it into your practice as well this year. So now let's talk about what sets Imbolc aside from the rest of the year. Most high ceremony for us take place on the calendar day when the energies are high. We try and carve out time in the calendar to make sure that we have time together. And it's common for our practice to span the entire day or the entire night together. After setting the space and working with the energies of the directions, we always spend time with gratitude work. And then we raise our vibration either using energy or breathing practice. And then it's time for the work. It's the centerpiece of our ceremony, which differs from Sabbath to Sabbath.
After we've received our messages, we finish with a healing session before closing space, usually followed by some unpacking together, writing or digesting what we experienced.
Now, the defining part of Imbolc ceremony is our earthing work. For those of you who live in a seasonal climate like us, we always take some soil from our previous year's harvest and we keep it with us over the winter months. Actually, we have ours here. It's just right here. We keep it with us all year, and it symbolizes a lot for us.
It actually has helped us grow into who we are today. So during Imbolc earthing ceremony, we get our hands dirty using the soil for anointing candles, drawing sigils on our skin, and for even doing some hands-on healing. By doing this, we are connecting to Great Mother Earth during her season of rest. And we got dirty last time.
We'll share some pictures covered in mud. 6 weeks from our Imbolc ceremony on Ostara, we make sure that we take the soil and we return it to our gardens. And this is symbolizing our intentions taking root. Remember, keep a little bit of the soil every year so that you have a culmination of all of your year's greatest work.
Lastly, during the ceremony, we always honor riches of the coming year. Bring it in. As a final adornment to the season, we've incorporated a tincture of vanilla, milk, and honey to celebrate the richness of ceremony and all that we've discovered. This is symbolic to the ewes that would start producing milk, which was significant to those who ran out of food because their harvest didn't last the long winter's months.
If you imagine
in the past.
Yeah. If you imagine that you didn't have enough food for your family over the long winter months, and now all of a sudden you have the cream and the cheeses, it was a source of nourishment. So anyways, I can't wait. Be sure to comment below and let us know how you are going to celebrate Imbolc this year. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so that you'll receive our videos for the next high holiday, which is going to be Ostara, which marks the end of the season of initiation and the beginnings of the season of manifestation.
Oh, yeah. In the meantime, Arcana releases 3 videos a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. For February, we're talking about the vertical guardians and the different energies and guides that can assist your work. Then in March, we're diving into
chakras. We cannot wait to do chakras.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to go through every week on our integration series and talk about where our blockages are, how we feel about that chakra, and we can't wait to hear about which ones you can't wait to work with too. Where are your blockages? And maybe you don't know. Our videos are going to be designed to let you know what energies live where in the body.
And it's a good opportunity for you guys to get to know us a little better too.
Yeah. So be sure to share this video with your friends so that you can decide on how you are going to celebrate Imbolc together. Many blessings and abundant returns, Soul Circle.
Much love. Namaste.
Namaste.